Maintaining your identity and keeping it from getting stolen is really, really important. We've all heard those situations where someone was rummaging through someone else's trash and maybe found a check stub or even just a check or whatever, a bank statement, and they stole that person's identity. Today we're looking at something called ID Police, and it's an identity protector. And really all it is an ink roller, so you can roll over top your bank statement and cover up your confidential information. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. My channel is dedicated to reviewing mostly as seen on TV items. I look at some consumer gadgets, other household products. Once in a while, I do a little bit of a DIY just because I like to. If that interests you, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and click the bell below. That way you're notified every time I release a video just like this one. Oh yeah, one more thing. Don't forget to check down the description for my social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I would love it if you would follow me there too. Now let's take a closer look at this as seen on TV ID Police to see if it could really help stop our identity from being stolen. Here is the ID Police that can be purchased for just around $10. So let's open this Impenetrable Case. A $10 item, heat sealed. That's funny. There is no tearaway, so I'm just going to cut around. All right, that looks like it could be enough. And here we go. I've got directions, which is kind of funny. I don't know why I have directions for something like this, but I will read them. So here it is. It's about maybe 2.5, 3 inches tall. This thing just pops off. I think I had to do a little twist to get it off, okay? And then it has a roller wheel that you're supposed to be able to mark off any confidential information. So I'm excited to test it out. Just as we thought, there was nothing to the directions. The only thing I did notice, it says, is you cannot refill this with ink. So once it goes out, it is out. It also tells you to roll it on in a straight fashion and not to have it on an angle. But look at that. It covered pretty well. I don't think I can read anything underneath that. What does it say? It says ID Police. Very funny. All right, let me do something on the other side. So right now I can read this limitation of liability, but let me see if I can wipe it over. All right. Now, can I read it? No. Actually, you know what? I really like this. I'm going to test it out a few more times on some different paper, but so far, it's kind of cool. So here's the directions from another product that I'm reviewing, and these directions are actually, like, they have a gloss to them. And so this says the cure time or the drying time may be different depending on the paper you're using and not to touch it right away. But you know what? I really do think it has great coverage. I'd be interested to know how long this would last for, but I'm really impressed with how it does block the ink or block the words from underneath with the ID Police. Let's see now. I'm going to wipe this, see what happens. Oh, gross. All right, so I am going to let the rest of that sit to see if it does dry, because it does say don't touch it until it dries, and of course I just didn't listen. I'm liking this more and more, so this is just a check. I wanted to see how it did there, but this is a check I received from my insurance carrier for overpayment, and I like that I could just wheel over and you don't know what says on there, because you know what? I feel as though that protected any confidential information I may have. Even though this check would be all them, I still think it's interesting, and I really like the security of this marking over items. So this is funny. I shred my materials, as many of you may as well. Well, this product is saying this is more eco-friendly than even using shredding, right? Because you can mark off your confidential information and then recycle it. Because you can't recycle your shredded paper? That's strange. I end up burning mine anyway. Anyway, so tell me, what do you think so far of this ID Police? Is this something that you would use to protect your confidential information? Let me know down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Now, let's get back to blocking off some more things. In the directions, we're told that if you push too hard or leave it on there too long, it might bleed through. So what I have here is I have a confidential piece of paper with my account numbers and routing numbers. This is confidential. Underneath it, I have just a blank white piece of paper, and in case you didn't get the joke, that is not confidential at all. Anyway, so let's try it. I'm going to just stick this over top, and I'm going to stick and hold, and maybe I'll wheel back and forth and Let's do that for, 10 seconds or so and just see if any of the ink goes through as I covered up my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 account number. All right, so that was pretty good. Oh yeah, and it did go through. So that's something you should note. The longer you push, the more it'll come through. I printed some of these big ones because I want to see what happens if you go over it. You have to do it a few times, right? Because it still says confidential underneath it. Let's see. I can still read that. So I will say larger letters, I can still read underneath. Now, I'm not sure how much of the ink I used just right there. Maybe I used up all the ink, or maybe it just really meant for smaller letters. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'm actually going to work on this a little more off camera, and then we'll come back. So I ran back and forth on this about 20 times, and to be honest with you, most of the white of the paper is gone, but you can still read the confidential. I also wanted to show you something. Remember this part right here that bled through? Let's take a closer look at it. Ready? Now let me turn it. Can you see? I can read those numbers exactly. That did not block out anything. Whereas up here, I can sort of see that it has writing on there, but I don't know what it is as easy as this. So if you are to use something like this, make sure you only run through it one time. In this video, we've been looking at ID Police. It's an as seen on TV identity protector. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started using this, I was, whoop, man, this was cool. And I was sold. Until really I started marking out things that I really wanted to keep confidential. And then I tested some other things and I can see it come through still. That didn't make any sense to me. This should cover it, and I tried blacking it out even more and it still came through. Well, then I went back and double checked the directions. Let me show you something interesting. ID Police may not conceal all data completely. Well, what's the point of this then? The things that I wanted to conceal, it doesn't even conceal. So I will say it does work on some things, but it does not work on other things. So therefore, in my opinion, this is not something that I would recommend. But if it gives you peace of mind, go with that. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. I couldn't end this video without at least trying the items they advertise, right? And that's this. And you can see I've already been working on this, and yeah, sure, it covers it up. But you know what else happens? If I go and touch that, I get the ink all over my fingers, and that's really, really frustrating. So it does work on medicine bottles, but also depending on the type you have, it may not dry really, really fast. That's important to know. Also, this does say it can stain your fingers. Do not get it on material because it will stain, and it's very difficult to get off and maybe even impossible. I will say this has been sitting for a few hours and it's still not completely dry. So the type of paper that you're putting this on really does matter. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review of ID Police. You know what? Speaking of security, there's a product I reviewed not that long ago, and it's actually called the Tac Pen. And there's a little bit of a stretch connected to security, but this does have a glass window breaker if you're inside your car and you need to get out real fast. That's a secure thing, right? Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link that review video right up here, and I would love it if you would click on this link. And by the magic of the internet, when you click right here, I'm going to join you at that review. So go ahead, click it. It's safe. I promise.